Hey guys! Tonight we're stepping barefoot into the muddy lanes and misty mountains of feudal Japan. You're not a tourist. You're not a ninja. You're just you, plucked from your modern life and dropped right into the chaos of the Sengoku period, where wars rage constantly, honor is currency, and even breathing too loudly near the wrong person can be a life-ending decision. Your first sensation is wetness. Rain has soaked your shoulders, and your feet squelch in something that might be mud, or might not. You glance up, half expecting a vending machine. There's none, just the low silhouette of a thatched hut, smoke curling from a roof hole, and the distant clang of steel on steel. Welcome to Japan, mid-15th century. It's beautiful, it's brutal, and you, friend, are extremely out of place. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And hey, let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you. I always read those. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You arrive in the Sengoku period, roughly the 1460s, also known as the Warring States period. It sounds dramatic because it is. For nearly a century, Japan is a chessboard of feuding daimyos, local lords, shifting alliances, and really bad travel conditions. The emperor technically still exists, but he's kind of like the decorative basil on a fancy dish. Present, but no one's really relying on him. Your body, meanwhile, is confused. You're wearing borrowed clothes, a simple cassode, basically a robe, tied with a sash that won't sit straight. The fabric itches. You try adjusting it, but someone hisses at you from a doorway. Apparently, touching yourself in public, even for totally innocent robe repositioning, is low class. Already you're attracting attention. A group of ashigaru, foot soldiers, passes, chatting in fast-clipped Japanese. One of them snorts when he sees you and mutters something with the word baka. Not great. You try bowing politely, too low. Now you look like you're mocking them. One raises his eyebrows. You back away, hoping not to trigger a duel. It's your first 10 minutes, and you've already survived an etiquette minefield. The village you're in is muddy, noisy, and dense. The air smells like smoke, fish, damp earth, and unwashed humanity. Children dart past you barefoot, one dragging a wooden toy ox on a string. A dog with 3 legs watches from the shadows, skeptical. You step into a small open square where a merchant is loudly hawking dried persimmons. He looks you up and down. No coin? He scoffs. You shrug helplessly. That's another problem. You have no money, not even a mun, the coin of the day. And even if you did, good luck spending it. People here don't just use money, they barter too. Rice is currency. Silk is currency. Your modern skills? Useless. Nobody wants help with PowerPoint. You drift toward the edge of the village and find a small shrine nestled under a tree. An old woman is sweeping the stone steps. You bow low, hoping to make up for your earlier blunder. She chuckles softly. "First time?" she says in perfect English. "Just kidding." She mutters something indecipherable and flicks rice grains at your feet. It's probably for luck or an exorcism. Let's talk about what you're standing in. A society rigid with hierarchy, ritual, and routine. Everything has its place, especially you, at the absolute bottom. You're not samurai, not merchant, not peasant. You're, well, something vaguely offensive to the social order. A muin, a person with no ties or status. Some people might mistake you for a traveling monk. Others might assume you're a criminal. Either way, not ideal. As you wander, you get a sense of the landscape. Bamboo forests lean over narrow paths. Thatched huts cluster near rice paddies like mushrooms. Everywhere, the ground seems to squish underfoot. Never quite dry. Japan's terrain is mountainous, its climate humid, and its architecture wooden. Fire is a constant threat. So are bandits, and bears, and rival clans. You learn this quickly when a conch shell trumpet blasts in the distance. Everyone freezes, then chaos. People scatter indoors. A child grabs your sleeve and pulls you toward a storage shed. You follow blindly, ducking inside just as the thudding of horse hooves draws near. Through a crack in the wood, you watch armored riders sweep through the village. Their horses snort steam in the cold morning air. The men wear conical helmets, grim expressions, and carry polearms taller than you. They're not attacking, just passing through. But it's a terrifying reminder. Peace is fragile here, and armed strangers mean trouble. Once they're gone, life resumes, as if nothing happened. A man with a crooked nose beckons you toward a bench. He hands you a rice ball, warm, sticky, wrapped in seaweed. Your first real meal. You.
Bite into it gratefully. It's plain, but satisfying. He says something in a thick dialect, taps his own chest, then points to you. You nod. He grins. You've just made your first friend, possibly named Taro, or maybe he just said, "I'm hungry." Small victories. As you sit, trying not to inhale your rice ball too fast, you start to notice the quiet details of this world. The way people shuffle in sandals to avoid splashing mud, the soft creak of wood from every structure, the ever-present wind rustling reeds near the river. Everything feels ancient, lived in, uncomfortably real, and yet oddly soothing. Historians still argue whether the Sengoku period was more dangerous for its violence or its instability. It wasn't just the battles, it was the constant not knowing. One year your village pays taxes to Lord A. Next year Lord B rides in and slaps his flag on the gate. You're not a citizen. You're an asset to be counted, taxed, conscripted, or ignored if you're lucky. You think briefly about your modern life. Phones, beds, antibiotics. In this world, a splinter can kill you if it festers. A misunderstanding can get you beheaded. But somehow, as the sun dips behind the hills, casting long golden light across the paddies, you feel oddly peaceful. Then someone hands you a wooden bucket and points to a ditch. Guess who's on night duty hauling water? You don't even get 5 steps with the bucket before realizing something important. It leaks. Not dramatically, but just enough to leave a little trail of droplets behind you like a sad snail. You try to carry it faster, but your footing is shaky. The path is uneven, and your straw sandals. Waraji, they're
Called are rubbing your heels raw already. They're essentially rope spaghetti tied to your feet. Functional, yes. Comfortable, absolutely not. You reach the stream, dip the bucket, and wince as your hands hit the freezing water. The air smells of moss, wet stones, and distant smoke. Behind you, the village is starting to wind down, fires glowing softly inside paper-covered windows, distant murmurs of families settling in, the faint clack of chopsticks. But your job isn't done, not even close. You haul the water back to a larger house, a daimyo's steward, maybe, or a mid-level samurai. Hard to tell. He gestures for you to clean the entryway. No mop, no gloves, just a worn rag and your very mortal hands. As you scrub, hunched like a peasant Cinderella, you hear 2 men speaking behind a sliding screen. You can't understand much, but one word is repeated. Reigi. Etiquette, or more precisely, proper behavior. And you are, without doubt, doing it all wrong. Here's the thing. Feudal Japan isn't just about surviving harsh conditions or dodging swords. It's about surviving the social dance. Every movement, every glance, every silence carries weight. There's a reason the samurai code, Bushido, was less about fighting and more about honor, loyalty, and knowing when not to speak. You're now in the realm of etiquette, and you are woefully unqualified. Let's start with bowing. There are levels. A shallow nod for passing acquaintances, a 30-degree tilt for formal settings, and a 45-degree ojigi for deep respect or apology. You, of course, bow like a confused bird, too fast, too low, and at the wrong times. Earlier, you bowed to a child. The child bowed back. The adult nearby stared in horror. Then there's Seiza, the formal sitting position. You kneel, sit back on your heels, and keep your hands folded in your lap. It's meant to convey calm, respect, and discipline. After 3 minutes, your toes go numb. After 5, you're sweating. At 10, you try to shift, and a sharp voice barks from the corner. Shikari shinasai, sit properly. But etiquette isn't just postures and bows. It's language, pronouns, verbs, honorifics. In modern life, you can get by with a few polite phrases and some enthusiastic nodding. Here, misusing one word can offend an entire household. There's humble speech, respectful speech, gendered speech, social rank-specific speech. You refer to yourself as watashi, appropriate for women and formal men. A rugged peasant man might use or washi. You, flailing between identities, just say, and hope your face is apologetic enough. Now imagine being in a room full of samurai, men with top knots, stiff armor, and short tempers, and accidentally using the wrong honorific. You call someone Nasan when he expects a sama. You ask a question directly instead of humbly implying it. A cup is passed to you and you drink before acknowledging the host. Congratulations. You've now committed a micro-offense that could snowball into something very sharp. Historians still argue whether etiquette in this era was more about preserving harmony or maintaining power hierarchies. Either way, your margin for error is razor thin. And there's more. Dining etiquette. You never point your chopsticks. Never stick them upright in rice. That resembles a funeral offering. You always say itadakimasu before eating and gochisu-sama deshita afterward. The old man next to you says it with a bow. You whisper it and hope that counts. It doesn't. Then there's clothing. You notice that everyone around you seems coordinated. Their robes fold left over right. Yours? Right over left. A young woman gasps. An old woman glares. A nearby monk makes a hasty hand motion. You've just dressed like a corpse. That's how bodies are clothed for funerals. You hurriedly redo your robe, blushing so hard your ears feel hot. One bright spot? The samurai household you're assisting offers tea. This is not a casual tea bag in a mug situation. This is chinoyu, the tea ceremony, an ancient ritual of aesthetics and precision. You are invited, not as a guest, but to observe quietly and pass tools. The host is a quiet, focused woman with graceful movements and an unreadable face. She folds a cloth 12 different ways before touching the teapot. She places each item, bowl, whisk, ladle, with surgical care. You try not to breathe too loud, or blink too hard, or move at all. Eventually, a cup is passed to you. You accept it with both hands, turn it clockwise, and take a sip. The tea is bitter. You nod solemnly. Someone near you smiles. You think you've done it right. Quirky fact time. Did you know that farting in the wrong moment could literally ruin your reputation? There's an entire folktale genre about embarrassing noises during Caesar. One legendary story tells of a retainer who lost his position because he farted in front of a lord during a poetry recital. Another used a fake cough to cover a stomach gurgle. People remembered for decades. You, blessedly, managed to stay silent. But etiquette isn't limited to polite spaces. On the road, you learn quickly that posture matters. Samurai passing by expect peasants to step off the path and bow low. You forget once and find a sword tip uncomfortably close to your face. The samurai says nothing. He just waits. You lower your head until your neck aches. Only then does he pass. Your heart doesn't stop hammering until he's out of sight. Back in the village, you're assigned to help with ink and paper, prepping writing tools for a scholar. You're not writing anything, just grinding the ink stick on a stone, pouring tiny amounts of water, and keeping the brushes supple. The scholar, a middle-aged man with a beard like a paintbrush, nods approvingly. You're doing well, until you sneeze. Right over his scroll, you freeze. He stares at the newly dotted masterpiece, then sighs. A long, slow, disappointed sigh. He says nothing, but the brushwork ends. You are dismissed. Modern manners are loose, elbows on tables, loud chewing, calling people bro. Here, the social rules are woven into the fabric of survival. Offend the wrong person, and you don't get a second chance. There's no HR department. There's just silence, or exile. As night falls again, you sit under the overhang of a shed, watching fireflies blink across the rice fields. Someone hands you a piece of grilled yam. No words, just a nod. You bow, carefully, precisely. Not too low, not too fast. You might be learning, slowly, painfully, but still, just don't sneeze on anything else. Morning comes like a slap. The rooster doesn't crow. It screams. A shrill, ragged screech right next to your ear because you slept near the animal pens. too exhausted to care where you collapsed. Your neck is kinked. Your robe has bunched up weirdly. Something bit you during the night? Maybe fleas, maybe something with more legs than that. You sit up slowly, bones popping, only to realize the day is already in full swing. And you're late. Someone tosses you a hoe, not metaphorically, literally. It thuds against your shoulder with the weight of responsibility, and a scowling man, probably the village headman, barks something urgent. He points to the rice fields. You squint toward the hazy green expanse, already glistening with morning dew and the backs of hunched figures working in silence. You're officially part of the peasant labor force now. Congratulations. Feudal Japan runs on rice, not just as food, but as currency. Taxes are collected in rice. Wages, land value, even social standing often hinge on it. Samurai are paid in koku, a measurement of rice. 1 koku is roughly enough to feed 1 man for a year. You, at this moment, would trade your entire Spotify playlist for a quarter of that. You trudge into the field, water quickly seeping into your sandals. Mud oozes around your toes. The air smells of rot and vegetation, of frogs and manure and distant smoke. A woman next to you, bent double, rhythmically plants seedlings in neat rows. She doesn't look up. She's been doing this since before sunrise. You try copying her and immediately plant one crooked. You fix it. Another one bends like a drunk soldier. You fix it. Your back starts screaming. You keep going. 10 minutes in, your calves are trembling. 30 minutes in, your spine is plotting your assassination. An hour in, you look up hopefully and realize there's still an entire field left. Welcome to Daily Survival. Historians still argue whether Sengoku-era peasants had moments of leisure, or if that's just an optimistic myth we tell ourselves. Because right now, the leisure feels like a joke. You pause briefly to rub your aching wrists, and a grizzled man nearby tisks loudly. The message is clear: less whining, more hoeing. Around noon, someone bangs a wooden bell. Break time. You limp out of the muck and collapse under a tree. A girl, maybe 12, hands you a wooden bowl of soup, milky, thin, floating with bits of daikon, some wilted greens, and a chunk of tofu so spongy it might be older than you. It's warm, it's salty, it's actually kind of amazing. You wolf it down, then feel vaguely ashamed because everyone else is eating slowly, neatly. Of course they are. Even lunch is ritual here. You overhear talk of taxes, grim faces. Apparently, the local daimyo is increasing the rice levy again. No one says it out loud, but the tension is palpable. If the harvest isn't good, the village might not meet its quota. And when quotas aren't met, soldiers arrive, not with patience, but with torches. Fun fact, peasants in this era often buried rice under their floors to hide it from tax collectors. Others stored it in clay jars inside walls. There were even traveling monks who doubled as spies, sniffing out hidden stores for lords. You look at your own bowl of rice like it's a precious gem. Because here, it is. In the afternoon, you're moved to a hillside plot. Dry land farming, millet, buckwheat, hardy grains. You swing a sickle. Clumsily. It's dull. Your hands blister fast. Blood mixes with sweat, and nobody offers bandages. They just nod approvingly. Pain means you're finally pulling your weight. The sun moves slowly. Hours stretch. You lose track of time. Everything blurs into motion. Swing, stoop, lift, shuffle. Your thoughts get quiet. It's almost meditative. Until you sneeze. Again. And someone hands you a dirty cloth with a side eye so sharp it could slice your nose clean off. Late afternoon, the sky turns gold. Workers begin drifting back toward the village. You hobble along, dragging the hoe behind you like a war trophy. Someone pats your back. It's the 12-year-old girl again. She's smiling. You almost cry. But that would be embarrassing. And dehydration is already handling your moisture reserves. As you approach the village, you pass a line of women pounding grain. The rhythm is hypnotic. Thump, 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 thump. A song floats over the sound. Something about seasons or birds or sorrow. You can't tell, but it makes your chest ache in that slow, nostalgic way, even if you don't understand the words. You ask about other food. Seaweed? Fish? One man chuckles and pantomimes a fishing rod. He points toward the coast. 2 days walk? So no. You're handed a small bundle for dinner. It contains pickled plums, dried sweet potato, and a tiny cube of salt. You chew slowly, trying not to think about takeout. Weird historical tidbit for you. During famines, people here sometimes made famine cakes out of bark, acorns, or even clay mixed with straw. They filled your stomach, but provided almost no nutrition, like eating sadness shaped into a biscuit. You wander through the village as the evening settles. You pass the elder's home. He's eating something from a pot that smells like miso and dried sardines. You don't ask. You just keep walking. You spot a group of children playing a game with stones, something between jacks and tag. They laugh like any kids would, like they haven't been up since dawn weeding with their mothers. There's resilience here, not comfort, but endurance. One woman is squatting near the communal hearth, steaming a pot over firewood. You stop. She gestures for you to sit. You do. Slowly. She hums an old lullaby while she works. The warmth of the fire against your raw hands is heavenly. She hands you a roasted chestnut. You bite into it, and for a moment, all the pain melts away. It's sweet, software smoky. You smile. She smiles back. Then she gets up and hands you a broom. Because of course she does. The stars begin to prick the sky. Somewhere, a bamboo flute plays. The notes are soft, wobbly, maybe played by a bored teenager. But they drift across the rooftops like incense, blurring with wood smoke and night air. You sit outside your hut. Well, the barn you're currently borrowing, and exhale for what feels like the first time all day. You didn't die. You didn't collapse. You even helped, sort of. But your spine may never forgive you. Your body feels like a broken folding chair. You wake up to the lovely aroma of hay, feet, and something vaguely rodent-like. The straw you slept on has compressed into a flattened mat, and your hip is bruised from a surprise stone. You try stretching. Your back cracks. Your knees cry out. Your shoulders whisper threats. This, friend, is what it feels like to survive one day of peasant labor in feudal Japan. And now, it's time to get dressed. Except, well, there's no wardrobe. No cotton t-shirt, no comfy sweatpants. Just one set of clothes, maybe two if you're lucky or marginally wealthier than a field mouse. You put on your rough hemp kosode, your basic robe, and tie it with a sash that's fraying at both ends. It smells like damp history. The fabric scratches your skin. You think longingly of cotton. Spoiler, cotton does exist in Japan at this point, but it's rare and mostly imported from China. Only the wealthy or elite get to enjoy soft textiles. You, unfortunately, are not elite. You're what scholars might call a walking rash. Feet come next. You slip on tabby, split-toed socks if you even have a pair. They're stained and stiff, with patches that don't quite cover the holes. Then comes your waraji, those rope sandals again, now even more unforgiving than before because of the raw skin you earned yesterday. As you walk, each step is an exercise in friction. Modern blister pads don't exist. You consider stuffing leaves into your sandals for padding. You try. It helps briefly. Then you step into a puddle, and now you have a soggy plant-based salad in your shoe. Today's assignment? Carry bundles of thatch to a nearby outpost. For this, you get to wear a mino, a straw rain cape that makes you look like an underpaid Wookiee. It smells like hay and has a disconcerting number of bugs in it. Historical fun fact. These straw cloaks, while effective at shedding rain, also attracted lice, spiders, and occasionally snakes. Yes, snakes. You shake yours out just in case. On. Your way to the storehouse, you pass a line of young women. They're scrubbing clothes by the stream. You hear gossip. Someone's daughter is getting married to a rice merchant. This is big news. Merchants might be low status, but they often have wealth. One of the women glances at your frizzy hair and sunburnt face and giggles. You nod politely. A mosquito lands on your forehead. Great. You arrive at the outpost and drop the bundles with a satisfying thunk. A man in armor inspects your work. He grunts approval, then walks off. You realize his entire outfit is not only made of silk and lacquered leather, but it fits perfectly. No scratchy seams, no straw cloak. Must be nice. Clothing in feudal Japan isn't just practical. It's deeply symbolic. Color, fabric, and cut communicate your status, your clan, even your mood. Samurai wear layered kamishimo with sharp pleats. Nobles favor embroidered silks and vibrant dye. You're somewhere between extra in a rice commercial and spare rag. But there's another layer to this, seasonal fashion. Yes, even here, summer robes are light, airy, and meant to wick sweat, although still itchy. Winter, thick quilted layers if you can afford them. Poor folks wrap themselves in straw or wear multiple layers of the same robe until they resemble very itchy onions. You're handed a head wrap made of linen. It's supposed to keep sweat off your face. It smells like someone else's past suffering. You tie it anyway. You're starting to look like you belong, just not feel like it. By midday, it gets hot, really hot. The sun bakes the path beneath your feet. Your sandals fray even more. Your kosod sticks to you in all the wrong places. You pass a man fanning himself with a piece of bark, and you want to cry. Eventually, you're told to fetch firewood from the hill. You make your way into the pine forest. The air is cooler here. Birds chirp. A breeze flutters your sleeve. For a brief moment, it's peaceful, until you trip over a tree root and land face first in a pile of needles. You're fine, just scratched. But now your kosod is covered in sticky sap and dirt, and no one has invented Tide Pods yet. Still, you collect your bundle and make your way back. You pass a small group of travelers, pilgrims maybe. One is wearing an exquisite indigo-dyed robe. It practically glows in the sun. You stare. It probably costs more than your entire existence. Weird textile tidbit, blue dye, known as AIzome, was both fashionable and functional. It acted as a mild insect repellent and even had antibacterial properties. That's right, your fashion could fight germs. Meanwhile, your robe seems to attract them. By evening, your back is soaked, your hands are raw, and your robe is 2 shades darker with sweat. You return to the village and pass the communal bathhouse. Hope flickers. You're invited in. Someone feels sorry for you, or maybe you just look that bad. Either way, you're told to strip. Modesty is minimal here. And step into a wooden tub that's steaming like a dream. And just like that, your body begins to forgive you. The water smells of cypress. You sit still. Your robe, now crusted with mud and heartbreak, lies in a soggy heap beside you. You soak. You breathe. You exist. And then the door opens, and 3 elderly men walk in and sit next to you. They start talking about local politics. One of them asks where you're from. You panic. You say, "The mountains." He nods slowly, squinting. "Which mountains?" You point vaguely to the northeast. He seems satisfied. They keep talking. You try not to accidentally fart. Because again, etiquette. As you leave, your robe is handed back to you. It's still damp, still itchy, but you put it on anyway, because you don't have anything else. The wind picks up as you step into the twilight. It's cooling now. Crickets chirp in rhythm. Lanterns begin glowing softly behind washi paper windows. You hear laughter. Somewhere, someone's singing. You look down at your frayed sash, your straw sandals, your patched sleeves. You look like you've been through a small war. But somehow you don't mind. It's not even sunrise when you're shaken awake by a stick poking your ribs. The man wielding the stick isn't angry, just efficient. He mutters something like up, and walks off. You groan, your bones feeling like a bag of wooden spoons, and sit upright in your bed of straw that's mostly just straw. There's a rat nearby. You both eye each other, sharing the mutual understanding of 2 exhausted creatures just trying to make it to lunchtime. Outside, the sky is only beginning to pale. The stars are fading, but the workday is already starting. Because in feudal Japan, the day doesn't begin with your alarm. It begins with the sun, and sometimes even earlier. Today, you're farming again. Of course you are, but this time you've graduated from mud paddler to something slightly more advanced, irrigation maintenance. You know nothing about irrigation, but neither does the man next to you, judging by the way he just dropped a rock into the channel and muttered, "That'll do." You learn fast, you have to. You shovel silt, clear weeds, redirect water flow with hand-stacked stones. It's cold. Your fingers go numb. Then it's hot and your arms burn. Your job is to make sure water flows to all the paddies evenly. This, it turns out, is not only exhausting, it's political. Who gets water first matters. Some villagers grumble about favoritism. Someone mentions the steward's cousin getting too much water. Someone else mutters about revenge during the harvest. You pretend to be deaf. Historians still argue whether water rights were more contentious than land disputes during this era. But one thing's for sure. Being the guy in charge of sluice gates is basically playing God with mud. You take a break, sipping from a gourd that tastes faintly of vinegar and regret, and stare at the patties stretching out like a checkerboard of green mirrors. Beautiful. Backbreaking. You think about your job in the modern world. Emails, Zoom calls, coffee machines. This question mark, this is just sweat and hope. Then comes your next assignment, rice threshing. You're handed a wooden flail, a nunchaku-looking tool meant to beat the rice stalks until the grains fall out. You're shown the motion. Swing, whack, turn, repeat. You start slow. It's kind of fun for the first 10 minutes. You develop a rhythm. Then the blisters reawaken. You whack your own leg by accident. Twice. Your neighbors laugh. One of them gives you a shoulder pat that's half affection, half bless your heart. You power through. You're earning your rice tonight. Lunch is served under a large tree. You're handed rice again, of course, but this time with a small slice of pickled radish and half a grilled sardine. It's salty, oily, and your favorite thing on earth now. A boy nearby slurps his food loudly. No one minds. It's a sign of appreciation. You watch as an old woman carefully divides a single pear among 6 children. The fruit is golden and precious, and they share it silently, solemnly. You feel an ache in your throat that isn't hunger. Back to work. You're now stacking bundles of harvested rice into cone-shaped mounds. They're tied with straw and set to dry. The sun is hot. You're sweating again. A bee buzzes near your eye. You flinch and knock over one of the stacks. People yell. You bow profusely. You spend the next hour restacking it alone. Here's a weird tidbit. Some peasants used to chew rice and spit it into baskets to create kuchikami sake, a kind of fermented rice drink made with enzymes from human saliva. It's a sacred tradition. You try not to think about it as a man offers you a cup of something cloudy and slightly sweet. You sip. It's earthy, strange, and oddly comforting. The sun begins to drop, and so do you. Your knees buckle as you carry a load of straw. A woman nearby grabs your arm, steadies you, and nods. You nod back, breathless. No words are exchanged. You've started learning the silent grammar of exhaustion. You pass a group of peasants spinning a thread from hemp. Their fingers move quickly, expertly. You ask, via pantomime, if you can try. You're handed a small spindle. You promptly drop it. They laugh, but gently this time. One old lady shows you again, her hands weathered like driftwood. You try again. Better. You spin a few inches of thread, uneven and lumpy, but still thread. Good, she says. The first English word anyone's spoken all week. Just kidding, but you understand the tone. You smile. As twilight settles, the village gathers. Tonight is a small celebration. Someone's baby turned 1 year old. This is a big deal. Infant mortality is high, and surviving the first year is like beating the final boss of life on hard mode. There's singing, drumming on empty rice barrels, dancers in colorful robes with painted faces. You sit near the back, your body aching in places you didn't know had nerves. But you're smiling, genuinely. Then someone hands you a stringed instrument, a biwa. You strum it like a guitar. Terrible idea. The sound you make is so ungodly that a nearby dog howls. The old man next to you clutches his chest laughing. You hand the instrument back like it's cursed. You eventually help clean up, collecting cups, folding cloths, avoiding the drunk guy who keeps trying to tell you something very emotional with a mouthful of pickled garlic. When you finally crawl back to your hay nest, you're filthy, starving again, muscles twitching like angry eels. But you're also proud? You didn't pass out. You didn't get yelled at. Much. You even helped thresh rice. Badly, but still. You're learning the rhythm of survival here. And that rhythm starts before sunrise and ends long after the stars are up. You don't want to open your eyes. Because when you do, reality sets in. Your muscles ache in layers, like someone stacked bricks on your bones overnight. Your fingertips are raw. Your nails are grimy. And your stomach? Already growling. Again. But there's no time to be dramatic. This morning, someone presses a small cloth pouch into your hand. Inside, powdered deer horn. You blink. This is medicine? Yep. Welcome to feudal pharmacology. Equal parts mysticism, desperation, and stuff you'd normally feed to a goat. You try to smile in gratitude, but the woman offering it frowns and waves her hand, motioning for you to eat it. So you do. It tastes like chalk and regret. You cough a little. She pats your shoulder. Somehow, that's the full prescription. Feudal Japan didn't have doctors the way we imagine today. There were herbalists, Buddhist monks, midwives, and traveling apothecaries, each with their own recipes for what ails you. Some swore by bear bile, others by powdered coral. If it came from nature and sounded vaguely gross, it was probably medicinal. You ask, or pantomime, if there's anything for your sore gums. A man hands you a twig, a chewing stick dipped in salt ash. It's like brushing your teeth with sadness. Still, you gnaw on it, trying not to grimace. Oral hygiene in this era is rustic. Toothpaste? Nah, you get salt, ash, and luck. And maybe Ogisu, no fun, nightingale droppings, used in rare beauty treatments, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. You touch your cheek. It's sore, swollen, possibly an abscess. There's no dental chair, no Novocaine. If it gets worse, someone's uncle knows how to yank it with pliers, probably rusty ones. Historians still argue whether feudal medicine was more effective than European medieval treatments. Japan certainly had knowledge. Chinese medicine had been influencing local practices for centuries. There were acupuncture charts, pulse diagnosis, herbal catalogs. But for a commoner like you, it's whatever grows nearby and hasn't been eaten by a raccoon. You stumble over to the communal area where morning tea is being served. It's warm, slightly bitter, and smells like roasted barley. You sip slowly. Your stomach settles, at least temporarily. A monk nearby is grinding roots with a mortar and pestle. He's chanting softly. You ask him, again with dramatic mime, what he's making. He holds up a jar, dried centipedes. You smile politely and walk away very fast. Today you're assigned to help a local woman gather medicinal herbs from the forest. Her name is something you can't pronounce, so in your head you call her Auntie Sage. She walks barefoot, with a bamboo basket on her back, and eyes that look like they've already seen your whole life. You follow her along a narrow trail. It winds beneath cedar trees, past mossy stones and shaded streams. Occasionally, she stops, mutters something, and plucks a leaf or digs up a root. You help when you can. She lets you sniff the herbs. Shiso, dokudami kuzu. One smells like mint, another like pond scum. You nod as if you understand what any of them do. She points to a tall purple flower and gives you a stern look. No. That one's poisonous. Got it. Back in the village, you help dry the herbs on woven mats. The sun does most of the work. Auntie Sage hums as she sorts them. Green ones for stomach issues, brown ones for wounds, grayish ones for nightmares. You try to memorize the colors, but they all start to look the same under the afternoon glare. A boy arrives with a deep cut on his hand. She cleans it with hot water, dabs on a crushed leaf poultice, and wraps it with rice paper. No yelling, no drama, just quiet efficiency. Then she calls you over. Your job, pestle duty. You grind dried mushrooms, red roots, and what might be a frog bone into powder. It smells earthy and slightly terrifying. She adds a few drops of something thick and black. Maybe tree sap, maybe despair. She stirs it, pours it into tiny clay molds, and sets them aside to dry. Medicine, she says, tapping one. You nod, still suspicious of the frog. Here's a quirky fact. Samurai would often carry personal medicine kits into battle. These included things like opium, powdered ginger, and even small charms blessed by monks. Spiritual protection mattered just as much as physical. You ask if the village has any charms. Auntie Sage points to her hut. Inside, hanging above the door, is a small woven bundle of hair, feathers, and rice straw. A shimenawa, sacred rope. You bow. She bows back, connection established. As the day fades, you're allowed to rest early. Either a reward or a subtle way of saying, you're in the way. You wander near the shrine again. The same old woman is sweeping. You bow deeper this time. She smiles. You've learned. You sit under the same tree as the first day. Your gums still ache. Your knees still hate you. But in your hand, you hold a small packet of powdered herb, tied with twine. You don't know what it's for, but you feel oddly reassured. Feudal Japan's medicine might not be perfect, but it's rooted in care, observation, and tradition. And hey, you didn't die today. So that's a win. You've got a stick, a headband, and somehow, the overwhelming feeling that you're about to embarrass yourself. Today you were volunteered, definitely not asked, to help reinforce a thatched roof with a small team of builders. You thought it'd be simple, light lifting, maybe hammer a few pegs. But when you arrived, they handed you something else. A dark hood, a coil of rope, and a small pouch of fine black powder. You blinked. Ninja, you mouthed. The man leading the group just grinned, tapped his nose, and scaled a beam like a lizard possessed. No, you're not actually a ninja. But this little village, like many in feudal Japan, has its share of shadows and whispers. Rumors of hidden agents, night spies, saboteurs, shinobi. The word alone makes your heart beat faster, and your imagination runs wild. Here's the truth. While pop culture gave us the black-clad rooftop acrobats with smoke bombs and katana umbrellas, the historical shinobi were a very different breed. Think spies, scouts, survivalists, and saboteurs. Less Marvel hero, more wet shoes and blisters. Still, that doesn't stop people from nodding knowingly whenever the word is mentioned. You are now standing on a roof. Your job? Patch a hole with straw in the wind. The rope isn't for your enemies. It's to keep you from plummeting into the pig pen below. You try to knot it around your waist like you've seen in survival shows, but end up looking like you're prepping for medieval Cirque du Soleil. The wind picks up. You throw down a clump of straw. It immediately blows away. You yell. Someone yells back. You don't know what they said, but the tone was 100%. Try again, rookie. You crouch, reposition, try again. This time it sticks. One small win. You can't do backflips, but you can jam straw into a roof gap. That counts for something. During break, one of the men offers you dried squid and a tail. He swears he once saw a real ninja. Black clothes, silent steps, eyes like a cat. You nod, fascinated. Then he chuckles and taps the side of his head. Or maybe it was just my cousin drunk again. Quirky fact. Many so-called ninja disguises were just farmer outfits. The genius was in the blending in. A true shinobi didn't look like a shinobi. He looked like, well, you. Scruffy, dirty, sunburnt, invisible in plain sight. You ask if ninja used weapons. The answer, yes, but not flashy ones. Sickles, short blades, poison darts. Sometimes even caltrops, little spiked stars designed to injure pursuers' feet. You step carefully for the rest of the day, just in case someone's idea of a joke goes too far. Later, a merchant wagon rolls into town. It's dusty, creaking, and covered in patched cloth. You watch as the merchant sets up shop. He's loud, smiling, full of strange objects. One item stands out, a small scroll with a faded drawing of a shadowy figure scaling a castle wall. You approach, point, he winks. Ninja, he says, in a tone that's 30% sales pitch, 70% pure nonsense. You barter. You don't have money, but you offer a woven charm you made last night. He accepts. You now own the scroll. Is it real? Probably not. Does it matter? Nope. As dusk falls, children in the village start mimicking ninja moves, leaping over baskets, rolling in the dirt. One does a spinning kick that almost takes out a chicken. You cheer them on. You think about how shinobi would have actually moved. Quiet, patient, alert. Maybe hiding in the eaves. Maybe eavesdropping at the tea house. Maybe not in black at all, but in beige or gray, camouflaged among the roof tiles and smoke. Historians still argue whether ninja clans were organized militaries or loosely connected freelancers. Some say they were government tools. Others say rebels. What's certain is that the myth outgrew the man. Back at your borrowed barn bed, you roll out your straw mat and stare at your scroll. The figure on it looks cool, deadly, unbothered. You, meanwhile, still have hay in your hair and bruises on your thighs from falling off a ladder. Twice? You're not a ninja. You're not even a ninja's assistant. But for a moment today, under that wind-whipped sky, hanging from a rope and imagining shadowy figures darting across rooftops, you kind of felt like one, until you tripped on your own sandals and fell into a bucket of thatch. Ninjas would not be impressed. Rain doesn't fall gently in feudal Japan. It slaps. The morning sky turns from ash gray to steel, and then all at once the clouds split open like someone overturned a celestial washtub. You're drenched in seconds. Your robe clings to your legs, your straw sandals squish, and your freshly waterproofed straw cape wilts like wet lettuce. You try running for shelter, but there's not much to hide under. The eaves drip steadily. The temple's porch is full. A merchant refuses to let you under his cart, likely because you smell like fermented hay and yesterday's fish soup. And then you hear it. Clomp, 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 horses, armored, impossibly loud on the soaked, packed earth. You freeze. A procession comes down the main road. Samurai, maybe 10 of them, drenched but majestic in their kusazuri, armor skirts, lacquered breastplates glistening with rain. Their banners flap violently in the wind. One of them stares at you. No expression, just stillness, like a hawk studying a worm. You bow, low, hold it, hold it. Only when they pass do you exhale. You've officially survived your first real samurai encounter in the wild. You duck under the awning of the blacksmith's shed. Inside it's steamy, loud, and smells like sweat, smoke, and hot metal. The blacksmith nods but doesn't talk. He's busy hammering a blade so rhythmically you feel like you should clap. You don't. Next to you is a pile of katana blanks, unfinished swords. Each one is a small promise of violence. Let's pause here for a mainstream fact. The katana wasn't the sword of every samurai, especially in the earlier centuries of the Sengoku period. Spears, yari, were far more common on the battlefield. Swords were expensive, personal, and often symbolic. Samurai used them more like pistols in the Wild West. Last resort, close range, personal justice. You're invited to help stoke the fire. You fan the bellows. The heat slams you in the face like a hairdryer powered by volcanic anger. You blink, sweat pouring down your temples. The blacksmith grunts approval. Suddenly, bang! Something explodes in the coals. You yelp. He laughs. Just a pocket of trapped steam, or maybe a tiny demon. Hard to say. Later, the storm clears. You're sent to run an errand, deliver some rice to the roadside checkpoint. So you trudge uphill, muddy and sore, rice bag on your back. Halfway there, you're overtaken by another rider. Just one this time. A samurai with a white crest on his helmet. He doesn't slow down. His horse splashes you with a tidal wave of mud. You curse quietly. When you reach the checkpoint, 2 guards stop you. They glance at the rice. One nods, the other steps in your path. You travel alone? He asks. Or at least that's what you think he says. You nod. He frowns. Too long of a pause. He narrows his eyes. Where are you from? You hesitate. Oh, you offer the standard from the mountains gesture again, throwing in a bow for flavor. He doesn't look convinced, but then he spots the seal on your rice bag. The village mark. His face clears. You're allowed to pass. That was close. Because traveling without documents or a valid purpose? Big no-no. Roads are dangerous. Bandits are real. But worse than bandits? Suspicion. You continue walking. The road winds along a narrow ridge with steep drops on one side. You hear thunder again, distant this time, and smell ozone in the air. Below, rice paddies glimmer like wet glass. You pass a man with a cart full of turnips. He offers you one. You bow, he waves. Connection made. You munch the turnip raw. It's spicy and earthy. Better than nothing. You return to the village just as the sun begins its slow descent. Your robe is stiff with dried mud. Your sandals are wrecked. Your legs feel like overcooked noodles, but you're alive. Later, while huddled near the central fire pit, you overhear a story. A samurai once struck down a peasant for walking on the wrong side of the road. Another drew his sword because someone stepped on the hem of his robe. A third challenged a merchant to a duel for staring too long. Historians still argue whether these were isolated incidents or common expressions of social dominance. But one thing's clear. When it came to samurai, you didn't make eye contact unless invited. You ask someone why samurai are so serious. The man next to you shrugs. Because they're allowed to be. He slurps his soup and says no more. Quirky side note. There were laws about samurai sword etiquette. Drawing your katana inside someone's home without permission? Insult. Touching another man's sword? Deep insult. Grabbing your own sword too quickly? Might as well scream, let's die together. And you're just out here trying not to trip. As night falls, the wind kicks up again. A storm is coming back. You lie in your corner of the barn, staring at the ceiling beams. Somewhere out there, on another muddy road, another samurai rides through the darkness. Maybe angry, maybe hungry, maybe just bored enough to ruin someone's week. You pull your straw blanket tighter and hope you're not next. You're sticky. Not metaphorically, not emotionally. Just sticky. Because tonight is bath night. And in feudal Japan, that's both a blessing and a test of your social nerves. Let's rewind. Earlier this evening, you were summoned, to the local sento or bathhouse. Someone took one look at your crusty robe, your mud-caked sandals, your haunted gaze, and decided enough was enough. You were becoming a health risk and an eyesore, a public uncleanliness hazard. And so here you are, naked, in a wooden room full of steam, strangers, and more eye contact than you were prepared for. Bathing in this era isn't private, it's communal. And the rules? Strict. First, you wash before bathing, not after. Always before. That means crouching on a stool, ladling warm water from a wooden bucket over your body, scrubbing down with ash or sand. Soap's not a thing yet, and doing your absolute best to not splash anyone. You fail at this immediately. You knock over the bucket. The man next to you, an elder with a towel folded crisply over his head, glares like you just insulted his ancestors. You bow, deeply. He grunts. Crisis averted. You rinse, scrub, rinse again. Then comes the bath part. The actual tub is massive, more like a hot spring than a bathtub. The water is hot, not soothing hot, scalding tea hot. But you grit your teeth and step in, 1 foot at a time. Everyone is watching. Not because you're new, because everyone watches everyone, quietly, respectfully, intently. You sink down slowly. Your muscles scream, then sigh. This is heaven. The steam opens your pores, your spine loosens. Your feet, poor blistered creatures, finally forgive you. The man with the head towel nods approvingly. You nod back. You're one of them now, kind of. A boy to your left starts humming a folk tune. The man next to him joins in, then someone else. Soon the bathhouse echoes with soft voices and ripples. No harmonies, no instruments, just old lyrics passed down like warm water between hands. Here's a mainstream fact. Communal baths were deeply ingrained in Japanese daily life by the Sengoku period. Though private household baths existed for the elite, most commoners bathed together. It wasn't just hygiene. It was connection, ritual, even spiritual cleansing in some Buddhist sects. Now, let's talk bugs. You step out of the bath and dry off with a scrap of linen so thin it's basically a suggestion. And that's when you spot it. A louse. On your robe, you flick it. Another appears. Then you realize everyone here probably has them. Fleas, lice, mosquitoes. Welcome to the bitey side of medieval life. Quirky tidbit. Villagers sometimes smeared a mix of camphor oil and crushed mugwort onto their skin to repel insects. You're offered a dab. It smells like bitter herbs and swamp sadness. You slather it on anyway. Back at the barn, you scratch behind your ear and try not to think about it. That night, you're invited to sleep inside a real house. Not just any house, an actual wooden tatami-floored structure with sliding doors and incense that doesn't smell like burnt socks. You bow 6 times, mumble your thanks, and step in carefully. You're shown a corner near the hearth. You sit cross-legged on a woven mat. The walls are paper thin. You hear everything. The snoring next door, the baby's gurgle, a quiet argument about pickles. But you're clean, or at least cleaner. Someone passes around a bowl of hot water with herbs. You're told it's to soak your feet. You look down at your cracked heels and nearly cry. As you soak, someone begins telling ghost stories, softly, matter-of-factly. There's the one about the man who didn't bow at the shrine and woke up with snakes in his futon. Another about a woman who stole rice and was cursed to cough up crows. Everyone listens quietly. No one laughs. You, of course, are terrified. Historians still argue whether these tales were genuine beliefs or community-enforced behavior codes. You, sitting barefoot in the dark with wet feet and vulnerable soul, don't care. You are not stealing rice. As the night deepens, the hearth crackles. Smoke curls upward, perfuming the air with cedar and soot. You lie back on the mat, wrapped in a threadbare blanket, and stare at the wooden rafters above. And then it hits you. You feel good, not just clean, connected. You didn't die in the bath. You didn't insult anyone this time. You shared a tune. You soaked your feet. It's not comfort, not luxury, but it's peace. Until, of course, the snoring starts. Loud, wet, inescapable. You stare at the ceiling and consider all your life choices. Again, the morning air feels different. Not cooler, not fresher, just heavier, thicker. Like it's carrying something you can't see, but definitely feel. Today, someone tells you, is Shrine Day. You nod, like you know what that means. You don't. But you're dressed and handed a small bundle. Inside is rice, a coin, and a folded slip of paper. Offerings. For the gods, the ancestors, or whatever ancient force might keep the rice growing and the lightning bolts from zapping the oxen. You join a quiet procession. Women in simple robes, children barefoot and whispering. Elders leaning on canes like they're holding up the sky. You follow them up a wooded path lined with red torii gates, each one taller than you, each one marking the transition from your messy, muddy mortal life to a realm where spirits might be watching. The shrine appears ahead, nestled into the forest like it grew there on its own. The roof is peaked and mossy. The wood is dark, lacquered by years of smoke, wind, and whispered prayers. Wind chimes jingle softly. A crow caws overhead. You've never been more nervous to walk in a straight line. At the entrance, everyone bows. You bow. Then you rinse your hands at the temizuya, a small water basin with bamboo ladles. First left hand, then right, then rinse your mouth. You do this, badly, some splashing. No one corrects you, but a child giggles. You may be spiritually damp, but you're trying. Then comes the offering. You step onto the worn wood platform, heart pounding. Before you is the shrine itself. Closed doors, shimenawa rope, zigzag paper charms. You bow twice, clap twice, offer your rice, drop your coin in the box, bow again. You whisper a wish. You don't know if it's the right kind of wish or if it translates across time and culture, but it feels honest. You hope that's enough. As you step away, a priest in white robes passes by, face serene. He nods slightly. You nod back, your heart hammering. Did he just bless you? Or was that just a polite nod? Impossible to tell. You rejoin the group and are guided toward a kagura performance, a sacred dance offered to the spirits. A girl in a red and white robe moves slowly, precisely, waving fans as bells jingle softly. A flute plays in the background, shrill and thin like bird cries in winter. It's beautiful. Then a gust of wind sweeps through the trees. The bells at the shrine door chime suddenly. The villagers murmur. A dog howls somewhere down the hill. Someone whispers, "The kami are listening." Quirky historical tidbit. In Shinto belief, kami are not gods in the Western sense. They're spirits, forces, phenomena, an ancient tree, a waterfall, a fox that keeps stealing your shoes. They're everywhere, and easily offended. So you tread carefully. Later, you're invited to join a circle making EMA, small wooden plaques where people write wishes or prayers. You're handed a brush and ink. You write slowly. You don't know kanji, but you draw a crooked mountain, a bowl of rice, and a small smiling face. Someone peeks over your shoulder and laughs warmly. It's not elegant, but it's honest. You hang it with the others, hundreds of wishes swaying in the breeze like secret hopes. One says, "Let my brother return from the war." Another, "A good harvest for my village." Another still, "Please let me meet a tanuki." You hope that one comes true. Then you're shown the sacred rope again, the shimenawa, wrapped around an old cedar tree nearby. It's massive, its bark rippled like dragon skin, its base surrounded by small stones and coins. People bow before it, touch it gently, whisper things. You do the same. You press your palm against the bark. It's warm. You can't explain it, but the moment feels real. Like the world just paused. Like the air leaned in to listen. Historians still debate whether Shinto practices were strictly religious or also deeply cultural, a mix of animism, ritual, and community habit. Either way, you feel the gravity of it now. This isn't just a place of worship, it's a memory anchor, a peace treaty with nature itself. The walk back is quieter. Everyone seems softer, Even the children stop poking each other. You pass by a woman laying offerings at a roadside stone, just a smooth lump but with a red bib and 2 coins at its base. You ask what it is. Jizzo, someone says. Guardian of travelers, protector of children. You bow too, out of respect, and a tiny bit of superstition. Because let's face it, if anyone needs extra protection right now, it's you. That night, as fireflies blink above the rice paddies and frogs croak like sleepy monks, you feel something new, a kind of quiet inside yourself. Not comfort, not safety, just quiet. You've seen the inside of a shrine. You've watched the dance. You've clapped, bowed, whispered. Maybe, just maybe, the spirit saw you. You are flat on your back, not by choice. You'd only just picked up the wooden bakken, a simple practice sword. And before you could even say, wait, which end do I hold? You were introduced to the ancient and time-honored martial art of getting wrecked immediately. Let's rewind 5 minutes. This morning, a visiting Yuriki, a low-ranking samurai officer, decided that a few of the local villagers could use discipline. And what better way than a bit of morning sparring? You were volunteered. Of course you were. You're handed a wooden training sword. It's heavier than you expected. Feels clunky. You try to hold it with some dignity. Immediately, your wrist gives up. You're lined up across from a boy who's definitely younger than you and definitely already has the soul of a weathered warrior. He bows. You bow. His is perfect. Yours is earnest. The instructor shouts a command. The boy lunges. And then? You're on the ground. Again. Wooden swords are supposed to be safe, but your ribs disagree. You roll over slowly, wheezing. The instructor sighs loudly and tells you to get up. You do, because humiliation in this moment is more painful than bruises. You try again. This time you swing, too wide, too late. The boy parries, spins, taps the back of your knee with surgical precision. You drop like a sack of bad potatoes. Training in feudal Japan isn't a karate movie. There's no motivational music. Just sweat, discipline, and the constant soul-crushing reality that you are not cut out for this. Here's a mainstream historical truth. The Bushido Code, the way of the warrior, wasn't about being flashy. It emphasized loyalty, restraint, self-control, and relentless repetition. It wasn't about winning every fight. It was about enduring the training. And you are enduring it loudly. Eventually, you're allowed to sit. You clutch your bakken like a wounded animal. Someone hands you a small rice cake. You want to cry. Nearby, other villagers are practicing spear forms with bamboo poles. The movements are elegant, balanced. You try to copy them from your seat. You nearly fall over again. Quirky tidbit. Some samurai clans had children begin training as young as 5 or 6. By the time they were your age, they could shoot arrows from horseback while reciting poetry. You just pulled a muscle trying to stand up. The instructor pulls you aside. He's got that, I'm going to teach you something, even if it kills both of us energy. He places your hands correctly on the sword, shows you the stance, feet wide, knees bent, eyes forward. He says something in a calm, gravelly voice. You don't understand the words, but the tone is clear. Do less. Stop flailing. You nod. Take a breath. Swing. Whack. Not bad again. Whack. Better. A 3rd time. Whip. Right into a tree. Okay, you're learning. Ish. Historians still argue how widespread martial training was among lower classes. Some say many peasants learned to fight, especially during chaotic periods like the Sengoku era. Others believe it was mostly left to the warrior class. Either way, today, your village made the decision. Everyone trains, even the guy who trips on his own sandals. After lunch, boiled barley, again. You're tasked with helping repair the dojo roof. It gives you a moment to reflect on the fact that everything in this world is built by hand, repaired by hand, maintained with the kind of care that comes from necessity, not nostalgia. There's no gym here, no punching bags, no protein shakes. Your training regimen is lifting wood, hauling water, and getting smacked with sticks. It's humbling and exhausting. In the evening, the training shifts. Not swords, but mind. A monk visiting from a neighboring region leads a short zazen meditation session. You kneel on a cushion, back straight, eyes half closed, hands folded just so. You try to focus on your breathing. Inhale, exhale. You start thinking about your blisters. You try again. Inhale, exhale. Your stomach growls. Loudly. Someone snorts. You pretend it was intentional. The monk says nothing. Just sits, silent, like a statue of judgment. You survive the session barely and walk out into the courtyard where the stars have started to pop overhead. A boy hands you your bakken again. You sigh, raise it. This time your grip is better. Your stance is less wrong. You swing slowly. The air parts in front of you. For a moment you feel it, balance, weight, stillness. Then you swing again and knock over a bucket. Progress. You are kneeling again. Your legs are numb. Your back is trying to fold itself into a question mark, and your knees are politely requesting a divorce. But you don't dare move. Not here. Because today you've stepped into the private quarters of the women, the inner rooms of the estate, and they're nothing like what you expected. Forget the samurai dramas filled with demure ladies folding laundry and staring wistfully at the moon. These women, they are sharp, organized, and absolutely in charge of everything that doesn't involve swinging a sword or screaming on a battlefield. Your first lesson? The quietest room is often the most powerful. You were brought here by a servant girl, probably 15, impossibly fast on silent feet, who said something that sounded like, "Follow." You obeyed. Now you're here. You try not to fidget. The okugata, or lady of the household, sits at the far end of the room, surrounded by silk screens, paper scrolls, and a small mountain of correspondence. She's middle-aged, graceful, and has an eyebrow raised that could melt granite. You bow low. She nods back, barely. Welcome to the other side of feudal life, diplomacy, poetry, and power, wielded through whispers, paper, and perfect posture. She assigns you a simple task. Fold a letter. That's it. Just fold a single letter. You panic, because there's a specific way to fold letters for different occasions. Congratulations, condolences, proposals, requests. Fold it the wrong way, and your message might say deepest sympathies when you're trying to ask for more soybeans. You mimic the servant next to you. Fold, crease, bow, tuck. It's origami with real consequences. You sweat through it, it's accepted, you survive. Mainstream historical fact. While men fought on the battlefield, noble women managed estates, secured alliances, educated children, and even negotiated peace treaties. Many were literate, cultured, and trained in political maneuvering. Some were also trained in the use of naginata, the curved blade polearm favored by female warriors. You glance toward a nearby rack and, yep, there's one right there. Polished, decorated. Absolutely not for decoration. The room is hushed, but busy. Women shuffle scrolls, arrange flower vases, oversee calligraphy practice, and prepare cosmetics from crushed seashells and charcoal. Every movement is precise. Every task is a ritual. You're handed a brush and a slip of rice paper. You're expected to copy a short poem. You stare at the graceful kanji. It might as well be a spell. Your brush trembles. Your first stroke looks like a centipede mid-heart attack. The servant girl next to you gently slides your paper away and replaces it with a blank one. Start again. You do. Slowly. Carefully. It's terrible, but better. Then over tea, you learn something incredible. The women of the household maintain a secret communication network. They send coded poems, ribbons tied in certain knots, colors that signal mood, intention, or warning. It's gossip, yes, but it's weaponized gossip. Quirky tidbit, during the Sengoku period, noble women sometimes used incense to scent their letters, and each fragrance carried a hidden meaning. Musk for passion, plum blossom for sadness. You are handed a strip of paper that smells faintly of pine. You have no idea what it means. You smile and nod. Later, a woman with bright eyes and a sharp wit pulls you aside. She teaches you how to mix red pigment from safflower petals. It's used for lip stain, but also to sign letters. She presses some onto your lips and laughs. You catch your reflection in a lacquered dish. You look like someone's flustered aunt. You're asked to carry a tray of tea to a guest in the garden. You accept, walk carefully, and spill none of it. Victory. On your way back, you pass a screen door left slightly ajar and glimpse a private moment. Two women sitting close, one reading aloud, the other listening, eyes closed, smiling faintly. You step away quietly. Historians still argue how much autonomy women truly had in this era. Some were constrained by strict Confucian norms. Others wielded immense power behind the paper walls. It depended on clan, region, and circumstance. You just don't want to mess up the tea service again. As evening falls, the inner rooms come alive in a different way. Laughter ripples softly. Hair is combed and pinned. Kimonos are folded, layered, adjusted. A young girl practices dance steps while a grandmother claps gently in rhythm. You help hold a lantern. Then you're summoned again by the okugata. She hands you a sealed letter. You recognize the knot. It's the one for alliance building. She nods toward the outer gate. You're to deliver it. You bow, deeply, sincerely. She nods again. Approval. As you walk into the cool night air, letter tucked safely in your robe, you realize something. Today, no one hit you with a stick. No one made you dig a ditch. No one laughed at your sword skills. Today, you witnessed a quieter kind of strength. And honestly, you're more tired than after any training session. You are awake. But you wish you weren't, because it's your turn for the night watch. You're not sure who volunteered you. Probably someone tired of your snoring. Either way, you're standing near the village gate, armed with a torch, a stick, and a deep existential desire for a blanket. The wind has teeth tonight. It slices through your robe like paper, and you're deeply aware that your sandals were not built for midnight patrols. They were barely built for walking to lunch. The sky is ink black. Stars pinprick the darkness, and the moon is just a sleepy sliver overhead. Everything is still. Not peaceful, just waiting. The other guard is a boy no older than 15. He doesn't speak much, just nods occasionally and chews something bitter smelling. You think it's pickled plum or bark. Hard to tell. A bell dangles near the gate, meant to be rung in case of trouble. You glance at it every few seconds like it might develop legs and run. Your job is simple. Stay awake. Watch for bandits, fires, angry spirits, wild animals, and anyone suspicious who doesn't bow enough. In short, everything. Historically, night watch duty was given to lower-ranked samurai, junior retainers, and unlucky villagers. It wasn't glamorous. It was cold, boring, and occasionally terrifying. You are now discovering all three aspects in real time. The boy beside you mutters suddenly, "Tanuki?" You jump. "Raccoon dog?" You whisper. He nods, points. Sure enough, a plump creature waddles across the path, glancing at you like you are the strange one. It snorts, then vanishes into the bushes. You exhale, then you hear chanting. Software rhythmic, close. You grip your stick, your torch flares. You step toward the sound, and discover a group of monks passing silently along the road. 3 men in saffron robes, each carrying a lantern. Their voices barely louder than breath. You bow so fast you nearly tip over. One monk pauses, looks at you, then says, in Japanese so slow you can almost understand, "Stay warm." You nod. Too many times. They disappear into the dark. The silence returns. You settle back by the gate, trying not to blink too long. But the dark plays tricks. You see shapes in the treetops, shadows on the walls. A branch breaks somewhere behind you, and your soul attempts to evacuate through your sandals. Quirky tidbit. Villagers often tied wind chimes to their gates not just for decoration, but to ward off spirits. The sound was thought to confuse ghosts and keep them from wandering too close. You now wish you had 100 of them. Your eyes start to blur. Your thoughts drift. You think about earlier, when you helped hang drying herbs in the kitchen. One of the older women had offered you a rice dumpling with miso glaze. It had been warm, soft, and somehow more comforting than any words she could have said. You think about the poem you copied yesterday, now hidden in your sleeve. Even in moonlight, the silent gate holds its breath, waiting for nothing. You didn't understand it at the time. Now you do. Your shift ends near dawn. The boy taps your shoulder. You jolt so hard you nearly clock him with your torch. He just grins. Back in the village, people are beginning to stir. You catch the scent of early rice porridge, faint wood smoke, and damp earth. You return your torch, return your stick, bow to the headman. He nods, says something approving. You're not sure if it was well done or you didn't let a tanuki in. Either way, success. You crawl into your hay nest and curl under your straw blanket. Your body is buzzing with leftover adrenaline, but your eyelids weigh 100 pounds each. Before you drift off, you hear a rooster call out. You sigh, because sleep will now have to wait until tomorrow night. You're kneeling in the dirt again, but this time it's not because of exhaustion or prayer. It's because you were in the wrong place at the wrong time, a talent you seem to have perfected. Let's rewind. A few hours ago, you were carrying firewood, a normal, non-political task, harmless even. But then you tripped, stumbled forward, and bumped into the wrong guy. Not just anyone, a visiting magistrate. His robe, silken, his fan, lacquered, his gaze, icy enough to flash freeze soup. You bowed, deeply, repeatedly. You apologized in every language you half remembered. You even offered the firewood, which honestly made it worse. He didn't say a word, just raised an eyebrow and turned away. The village elder approached you minutes later. Quiet voice, hands behind his back. You should kneel for a while, just in case. So, now here you are, kneeling in front of the village's modest little yagura, a small raised platform used for official announcements, punishments, and the occasional dramatic sermon. You're not under arrest, not technically. You're under observation, because in feudal Japan, the law is less about what you did and more about who you did it in front of. Mainstream historical truth, the legal system in the Sengoku period was a patchwork of clan codes, regional customs, and the whims of whoever held the biggest sword. There was no centralized court system. Justice was local, often immediate, and frequently symbolic. Someone stole a chicken, public apology. Stole a second one, a beating. Third time, missing hand, if you were lucky. The samurai class had its own law, Buke Shohado, a strict code governing everything from haircuts to sword length. Violating those laws could mean disgrace, banishment, or a very quick, very permanent solution involving steel. You are not samurai, but you've brushed against their rules. A small crowd has gathered to watch. Nothing else is happening this morning. You're free entertainment. A kid tosses a pebble your way. It lands beside you. He grins. You don't move. Show no weakness. Eventually, a local scribe walks by. He holds a long scroll and an ink brush. He glances at you, then at a nearby guard who shrugs. The scribe scribbles something. You desperately hope it says harmless foreigner and not accidental threat to authority. The Yoriki, that low-ranking samurai you saw during training, appears. He approaches, squints at you, and finally laughs. Still here? You nod. He gestures for you to stand. You do. Slowly, knees creaking, he leans in and says something soft. You're lucky. The magistrate's horse threw a shoe. He's in a bad mood, but not that bad. You bow. He walks off. You are apparently free to go. You shuffle back toward the rice field like a man who just escaped a paper guillotine. But you've learned something today. Law is not about fairness. It's about knowing your place. Knowing when to bow, when to speak, when to disappear. Quirky tidbit. Certain officials carried warning sticks, decorated staffs they would point at offenders before delivering punishment. If the stick touched you, it was bad. If the stick pointed at you, almost as bad. And they had various types depending on whether the punishment involved lashes, kneeling, or public shaming. You didn't see a stick today, but you felt it. Back at the village, you find a quiet corner and sip water from a gourd. You're shaking, just slightly. Not from cold. From the deep, bone-rattling realization that you live in a place where power wears silk and speaks very little. The woman who gave you tea the other day brings you a rice ball. No words. Just a kind glance. You nod in thanks. Later, near sunset, you help set up lanterns for the evening ritual. Small paper globes, strung between homes, glowing orange and soft. They sway gently in the breeze, like fireflies tethered to earth. One man lights incense and whispers names. Ancestors, recently lost villagers, a child who didn't survive the winter. You bow with the rest, deep, long, sincere. Because the law may belong to the magistrates, but grace? Grace belongs to the people who live quietly between storms. You are cold, but not the kind of cold that shivers and passes. This is deep cold. the kind that sinks into your bones and sits there, unmoving. The kind of cold that straw sandals were not designed to handle. Because winter has arrived. And feudal Japan in winter? It's beautiful. Crisp air, clear skies, and snow that falls like a poem. But it's also merciless and drafty. And you're beginning to suspect that every wall in your temporary home is made of paper and wishes. You awaken before sunrise to a new silence, the kind that muffles everything. You pull back the sliding screen and stare. The world has turned white. Snow blankets the rooftops, softens the muddy lanes, piles up like frosted rice on the edges of fields. Smoke curls from every chimney, and footprints, the only signs of life, crisscross the village like a secret map. You step outside. Your breath fogs instantly. Your fingers go numb in seconds. Your robe is the same one you've worn all year, only now layered with a hantan, a quilted jacket that feels like hugging a sad futon. You trudge toward your morning duty, clearing snow from the path to the shrine. A bamboo broom is your tool. It's not efficient. It's not even effective. But it's what you've got. By the time you reach the top of the hill, your toes are screaming and your nose is fully in rebellion. But the view makes you stop. The shrine, surrounded by snow-laden pines, looks timeless, sacred. Even the fox statues wear little caps of snow like forgotten ancestors. You bow, out of habit, out of respect, out of survival instinct. You're not sure anymore. Mainstream historical fact. Winter in feudal Japan meant hardship. Crops were gone. Game was scarce. Cold-related illnesses, coughs, fevers, frostbite were deadly. Most rural homes relied on a centrally roary hearth for warmth, but it only did so much. And the smoke? You breathed it all day. You return to the village to help split wood. You hold the axe awkwardly. It's heavier than you remember. Your hands are stiff. The first swing bounces off the log like a joke. An older man takes it from you, splits the log in one smooth motion. "Te ga samui," he says, smiling. "Your hands are cold." Yes, your soul is cold. You carry firewood to the communal hall where children are gathered around a brazier. One of them is toasting dried persimmons. The smell is sweet and smoky and utterly unfair because they're not sharing. You join the adults preparing mochi, rice cakes, for the solstice. The rice is steamed in wooden barrels and then pounded in rhythm with massive mallets. You're given a turn. You nearly break your wrist. Still, your contribution is accepted. Someone offers you a tiny mochi ball, still warm. You bite into it. It's sticky, chewy, and filled with red bean paste. Your teeth hurt, but your heart sings. That night, you sleep closer to the hearth. Everyone does. Bodies line the room like commas in a long, quiet sentence. The fire crackles. Someone snores gently. And outside, the snow keeps falling. Quirky fact. Some villagers use Cairo, tiny charcoal hand warmers wrapped in cloth to stay warm. Others wore straw boots packed with dried grass. You? You have your hands wrapped in your sleeves like a pitiful dumpling. Historians still debate whether rural communities in the Sengoku era had higher mortality rates in winter or during famines. Both were brutal, but cold. Cold was constant. One woman tells you an old tale over tea about a Yuki Anna, a snow spirit who appears in blizzards to lure lost travelers. Her eyes are said to be empty, her voice soft like falling snow. You shiver for reasons unrelated to the wind. You pull your robe tighter. Later, you help hang pine branches above the door. Kadomatsu, a New Year's decoration meant to welcome ancestral spirits. You bow again. Your back aches. But your hands? They're no longer numb. You sit by the fire sipping hot broth. Someone hands you a folded scarf. It's scratchy, hand-woven, and smells like cedar smoke. You don't know who made it. You don't ask. You just say, "Arigato," soft, meant. You've made it this far. One season at a time, one mistake, one lesson, one bowl of rice at a time. And as the snow continues to fall and the fire crackles softly, you realize you're still here, still bowing, still learning, and somehow still standing. The fire's low now. Just faint orange flickers licking the edge of the ash, casting gentle shadows across the walls made of paper and pine. Outside, the snow has stopped. The world is holding its breath. You're lying on your side, wrapped in a robe that still smells faintly of smoke and rice straw. Around you, the quiet breathing of others, your neighbors, your companions in this strange time, fills the space like a lullaby. Every breath rises and falls like ocean waves on a distant shore. Your body aches. Every muscle hums with the memory of effort. Your hands are rough. Your knees are worn. But there's something else now, too. Something softer. Familiarity, rhythm, maybe even belonging. You've walked muddy roads, tripped over protocol, been scolded, soaked, stared at, and knocked flat. You've bowed too low and not low enough. You've said too little or too much. And through it all, you've learned that survival here isn't about brute strength or cunning or clever tools. It's about quiet endurance, observing, adapting, listening more than speaking. It's about waking up sore and still choosing to rise. Now, as your eyelids grow heavy and the last ember flutters like a firefly on the edge of sleep, you let your breath slow. Let your thoughts drift. You are not a warrior, not a noble, not a legend. But you lived a day in feudal Japan, and somehow, you didn't just survive it, you became part of it. So rest now. Let the stars outside blink their slow, ancient messages across the sky. Let the cold stay beyond the wall, and let the silence wrap around you like a lullaby sewn from time itself. Sleep, traveler. You've earned it. You've earned